What's up, guys? We're going to be looking at a clip from the Joe Rogan Experience podcast with Joe Rogan's special guest being Dr. Phil, and the video is titled The Problem with Socialism. All right, so the description will be in the link below. You already know. Now, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe while we react to it. Now, let's get into it.
Of all people, that I read yesterday. See if you can find this, where he was talking about it when he was young. He thought that the world's problems could be solved by a redistribution of wealth, but now he realizes that healthy commerce is the way to a better society.
Yeah, look, socialism doesn't work. You know, there's every cliche in the world. It works great till you run out of other people's money. You know, all of those quotes. It doesn't work, and I've encountered those people in debates that think it does. I've had people in the focus group situation that say they shouldn't be prosecuting shoplifting because they're just going in there and taking what's rightfully theirs. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? They said, well, these corporations aren't paying enough. They're not paying a living wage, so they're just going in and taking what's rightfully theirs. And I'm saying, well, so, okay, if...
Now, I'm not in Dr. Phil's line of work, but I've never heard anything that insane. I've never heard anyone say that, you know, that people who loot and steal are just taking what's rightfully theirs. That's crazy. But like he said, socialism doesn't work. And in today's day and age, you know, in the West, you got all these people, begging. You got all these people begging for it, but they haven't. A lot of those people haven't done an accurate dig through history on socialism. A lot of these people have never lived where socialism has existed. They haven't touched down and been to a place where they practice what they want them to implement here. So, you know, like he said, it just doesn't work. We've seen it. We have the history on it. It sounds great on paper, but in the wrong, it always ends up in the wrong hands.
You're wanting equal outcome. No, I'm just wanting equal opportunity. No, you're wanting equal outcome because you're saying everybody should just help themselves so they all can live. What if one person spent 15 years going to college and working their butt off to acquire what I call consequential knowledge, and the other person was sitting home in a beanbag eating Cheetos for 15 years? You think they should have the same outcome? Well, yeah, that's a right. Everybody has a right to a reasonable life. Well, go read The Little Red Hen. I mean, did they not go over that in grade school?
I don't remember that one.
You don't remember that one? That's a good book. I'll send you a copy.
What was the premise of The Little Red Hen?
Well, she was going around saying, "Hey, help me harvest the grain, will you?" And you know, the grasshopper said, "I'm just basking in the sun here." And then she goes to the next animal, "Help me with this." "No, hey, I'm busy right now." Then it comes wintertime, and they all kind of want to come eat the bread. And so, well, you didn't help when it was time to get the grain in, but now you want to eat the bread. And so
that's a great analogy. I never read that book, The Little Red Hen. I think Dr. Phil being on the Joe Rogan podcast, he gets to shine in a little bit better of a light because on his network, I'm sure he has to suppress some of his own natural thoughts sometimes. I'm not saying Dr. Phil is a complete bot. I don't want to put that label on him, but I'm sure he has to suppress how he really feels sometimes. And, you know, he could just speak freely here on Joe Rogan. And I like what he's saying.
Sorry, I didn't get enough in to feed you all because you never helped. And so they're all out there freezing to death, and it just doesn't work that way. You got to pitch in if you want to be there when it's time to chow down. And people don't understand it doesn't work if you don't contribute. It doesn't work.
And the scary thing is this idea that people have that the government should provide for them and that they deserve it. It just reinforces this, and it just compounds it.
You know, even I've worked a lot in rehab, and I don't mean drug rehab. I'm talking about whatever it is. If you have a head injury, if you have someone that's injured on the job and they're having to re-educate their body, spinal injury or whatever, if you don't require that person to do everything they can do every single time they face a task, you're cheating them because they'll never get to the next level. I mean, if a paraplegic takes 11 minutes to get across a room to flip a light switch and you don't require them to do that, then they'll never do it in 10 minutes, 9 minutes, 6 minutes, and then where they can actually do it.
Yeah, like I said, I like what Dr. Phil's saying here. You know, a lot of people might disregard him, but I think he's an older gentleman. He got some wisdom, man. I like his analogies and his stories and stuff like that.
Now, if they can't do it, they can't do it. But you need to require them to do everything they can do for themselves before you help them to do it. And we should always help them to do it, but you should let them do as much as they can do. And that's the same way with everybody in the world. They should do everything they're able to do.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure where the entitlement comes from to thinking that the government is supposed to, subsidize or pay for your lifestyle. But trust me, you don't want to be in a position where the government pays for your lifestyle, because it isn't a very good lifestyle. They'll give you money, but they ain't gonna give you enough to thrive. And I love what he's saying. Like he said, if that's where you want to start handouts, people aren't going to get better, because people need to learn skills and put in work to earn money. Things shouldn't just be given, and when you just give, you'll turn someone rotten, and they won't even know how to do basic things for themselves. They'll always expect a handout. Once you go down the road of handouts, it's hard to turn back.
And if we have people on the government dole that aren't doing everything they can do to help themselves, whether they're among the homeless population or the drug population or the mentally ill population, whatever, I'm totally understanding that you help people, but you give them a hand up, not a handout. There's a big difference. And we're just not doing that. You've got to require people to do everything they can do to help themselves, so they, again, observe themselves doing more and more, and they have pride in what they achieve and what they accomplish. And we've gotten away from that. We're not doing that.
But it seems like, especially when you're talking about like the homeless population, you would need so many people to work with those people, because you're talking about a psychological shift, a way of viewing the world with discipline and accountability, that you're not going to just get people to adopt on their own. I mean, very few people will. Most people will do the very least that they have to do. And if there's programs and different ways they can acquire money and food, they'll just stay in whatever state they're at. I was watching this video today of a guy who's in Hollywood who built a house on the street. He built a small house, and they were talking to all the people in the neighborhood about it.
I might react to that video on the channel, you guys. I was on YouTube scrolling, and I seen that video as well. I didn't click on it, but I know exactly what video he's talking about.
And they had the cops come and visit him, and they offered to take him to a shelter, and he's like, no, I don't want to go. And they go, okay, and they just leave him there. So this guy's built a structure on wheels. It's like a small shed, but a wooden house, because he said that every time he had a tent, they took the tent away.
Yeah.
So he just built a house.
Well, that's pretty industrious.
Yeah, but why can't he apply that to other things, right?
Exactly, and he can.
But he needs coaching.
And I don't care how flat you make a pancake, it's got two sides. And the side where he says, I don't want to go to a shelter. If you go to a shelter, what do you do with all your stuff? Because there's nowhere inside that shelter to take all of your stuff. And he has things. And he might have an animal. And that animal he's attached to, and you can't take that animal in the shelter. And you can't take your things in the shelter. And if you can't take your animal and your things in the shelter, they're not going to go. And if they leave their things on the street, they'll be gone when they come out the next morning. So a shelter's not always the answer. So you got to have empathy for those people. And he may be trying to do the best he can, but you got to create alternatives where he says, okay, look, if he's industrious enough that he's built a house on wheels and they're pirating electrical, some of them from service poles.
Yeah.
Some of them have 10-man tents and they've got flower beds in front of them.
Yeah, this guy had plants hanging out in front of his house.
That's pretty industrious. Now, if that guy's got that much initiative and he could use that in other ways, find him a place where he can do that, where he can not be obstructing traffic, not be in front of somebody's business, be in an area where he can build that house, and then maybe he can inspire somebody else to do the same thing, and then he can maybe, it starts to snowball. You work with what you have. I'm not saying these people can start running their own business tomorrow, but build on what you have.
All right, guys. Well, that's the clip. I think that was a pretty interesting conversation. Shout out to Dr. Phil because he dropped some gems. Just my closing statements, like he said, like I said, we've seen socialism put into practice, and we've seen how badly it ends. And in a lot of arguments that so-called socialists try to make for socialism, they'll say, "Oh, well, look at the Nordic countries." They'll name a few countries, but even in those countries, they have capitalism worked into it as well. So we've seen socialism, and yeah, it's not the way we want to go. It's not the way we do things here. And my problem with people who say we need socialism, or people that say this poor person or these poor people deserve money. I mean, you don't even know exactly how they live their lifestyle. Like Dr. Phil said, there's a difference between someone who worked 15 years busting their ass to get to where they are, or to acquire a certain skill or trade or whatever it may be, that experience, compared to someone who doesn't work as hard. You get paid for your hard work. And some people choose to stay at companies longer than they should and never move up and don't make as much money as they could be. But that may be their own choice. Don't mean you got to take from somebody else, take from the rich and give it to the poor. You know what I mean? But let me know what you thought about that in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe on your way out the door. Till next time, guys, I'm out. Peace.